Good day, and welcome back to the Flying Doctor channel. On today's journey, we will board the only U.S. airline currently operating ATR 72s for passenger service. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the views. I begin the day at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, where Delta is headquartered. Once through security, I almost always walk through the passageways connecting each terminal instead of taking the plane train. Even though this underground tunnel looks and smells somewhat dated, it is probably one of the most relaxing passages at this airport. Having made it to my terminal, it's time for the obligatory lounge visit. As the home of Delta, this airport has a sky lounge in each terminal. Today I'm in Terminal A. Once you enter the lounge, if you miss the signs, you will probably think you're in one of the smallest sky lounges in the country, let alone the lack of windows. However, this space serves more as an overflow area at peak times, as most passengers were upstairs, but more on that soon. The buffet on the bottom floor has an array of breakfast staples, a small stand with grab-and-go snacks for your flight, and a bar. I have noticed some Mav geeks making similar videos rarely document the lounge bathrooms. Personally, these are one of the most enviable benefits of having access to a lounge. Moving forward, I plan to review bathrooms and lounges as unobtrusively and conscientious to privacy as possible. Upstairs is what you would expect at any other sky lounge. There are multiple seating options scattered throughout the space, a help desk, bar and buffet, and views of the apron. My time in Atlanta was running short, and I headed to the gate where I got a glimpse of the first aircraft I'd be on today. This Boeing 757-200 was the 500th of its kind manufactured and has served Delta for its entire life, beginning in November 1992. Today, and on all future flights, I'll be using my Atmotube Pro to monitor various components of air quality, including humidity and temperature, as well as various types of pollutants in the air. After making my way to the aft of the aircraft, I sat down and explored the seat. There's a decent amount of legroom for myself at 6'4", and I find it possible to set a laptop on the tray table and do some work. The in-flight entertainment screen is also of appropriate size and offers a plethora of content to stream on demand. Delta is also rolling out Wi-Fi capabilities on all of its domestic aircraft, allowing SkyMiles members free Wi-Fi during flights.
Brown, Delta 1709, 2 south with Tango.
Delta 1709, ground. Okay, hold there just a moment. Let me just see if Fort Lauderdale's over. Delta 1709, your number 1 there, monitor tower 123.85.
2385, Delta 1709.
Yep.
We had a very quick taxi from the gate to the active runway, where we took off on runway 9 left.
Delta 1709, Atlanta Tower, RNAV the grids, runway 9 left, Mike 2, clear for takeoff.
RNAV grids, 9 left, Mike 2, clear for takeoff, Delta 1709. Departure, Delta 1709.
South Georgia was obstructed by clouds, but the sun prevailed as we entered the skies over Florida. One thing that kept me busy during this flight was being on the lookout for other aircraft crossing paths. The use of Flight Radar 24 made this much easier and predictable than simply relying on sight.
And Tower, Delta 1709's at 3,700, established inbound, 10 left.
About 1 hour after takeoff, we were on final approach to Fort Lauderdale.
Clear land, 10 left, Delta 1709.
As mentioned earlier, I used my Atmotube Pro to measure the air quality during this flight. As shown in this graph, the green dots represent the altitude. Plotted on the right y-axis are the temperature in red and the humidity in blue within the cabin. A quick taxi off the active and we were parking at D1, located in Terminal 2. There is no walkway connecting Terminals 1 and 2, so if you have a connecting flight, you'll need to exit the terminal and be rescreened through security. I had planned for this, however, as I needed to check in at the ticket counter to obtain my boarding pass. Once inside the terminal, check-in counters are situated to the left of the security screening, in between United Airlines and Bahamas Air counters. Initially a bit concerned noticing the passenger queues, but quickly realized only 2 people were lined up for Silver Airways. As of May in 2023, Silver Airways is the only passenger airline operating dual turboprop aircraft in the US. These aircraft currently transport passengers across the U.S. Southeast, Caribbean, and Bahamas. After passing security, a handful of restaurants, shops, and a couple of bathrooms occupy the main promenade of Terminal 1. As I approached the open end of the jet bridge, I turned the corner at the end and walked out onto the ramp where I got my first glimpse of today's second aircraft, November 705 Sierra Victor, the Silver Warrior. Flown for the very first time in August of 2012, this ATR 72-600 was operated by a handful of different airlines before being painted white and pink for Silver Airways in 2021. For an app geek, boarding aircraft directly on the apron, the increased abundance of jet fuel aroma, and the fact that we got to watch aircraft depart for about 10 minutes made my day. Like the gate agents, boarding was a bit hectic as passengers tried to situate themselves, although this process really isn't straightforward on any flight. The cabin is in a 2-2 layout from front to back with no first or premium class offered. The overhead bins and interior colors match that of most airlines with the exception of the pink Velcro covers atop each seat. Once situated, I found the seats themselves were fairly comfortable in terms of support, although legroom was quite restricted. What would today's flight review be without my favorite airline socks? A quick announcement from the lead FA ensured us that the rising heat from 63 more bodies inside of the cabin would be alleviated once we took off. Perhaps as a gesture of good faith or simply compassion, she handed out small water bottles to the rear cabin where I was seated. I had the personal air vent open for the entirety of the flight. Not once did air blow out of this vent that I would consider cooled. As one may expect, the table is on the smaller side due to size constraints of the aircraft, but it's suitable for holding a drink and a snack. On second thought, maybe this tray table shouldn't be used to reliably hold anything. Even if it were sturdy, had I been forced to open up my laptop to get work done, my lengthy arms probably wouldn't allow for using this tray table to set my computer on. I also used my Atmo 2 Pro for this flight with Silver Airways. Compared to the previous flight I showed you, the humidity levels never dropped below 30%. Perhaps this is because our altitude never reached more than 20,000 feet and the time that we were at cruising altitude was very limited. One of the common complaints many people have with respect to turboprop planes is the noise. To get some quantifiable data on the actual noise levels, I made use of the decibel meter on my Apple Watch. At a modest 70 decibels, this was well within the range of noise levels observed on other more prevalent aircraft like the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320 families.
Silver Wing 66, advised to be pick up the airport, will be filling the Franc at 12 miles.
Representative this side, Silver Wing 66.
Silver Wing 66, contact tower 118.45, great day.
118.45, thank you, good day.
There were a few turbulent jolts as we dropped below 5,000 feet. Nothing too alarming, but the passenger behind me sure seemed alarmed, with his vocal cords forming various profanities after each shake of the cabin. Soon enough, the captain aligned us with runway 35 left, where a JetBlue A320 appeared to our west, lined up on 36 right. As we touched down, the roar of the turboprops increased, reducing our ground speed to an appropriate rate.
Very good landing, Captain Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, Silver Airways would like to welcome you to a landing with the local time is...
During our taxi to the gate, I was able to get a glimpse of a couple of sky candies, including the JetBlue retro livery and Southwest Illinois 1.
When exiting the aircraft. If I may remind you, guests are not allowed to stand around the propeller or on the wings of the aircraft.
It was quite an extensive taxi, forcing us to go virtually from one corner of the airport to the opposite end. Eventually, we made it to our remote stand, where again, we were deplaned at the rear of the aircraft onto the apron. At 48 cents per mile, this was a reasonably priced flight, which was uneventful and achieved the sole purpose of the fare. Passengers arrived at their final destination unharmed and on time. Will I fly with Silver in the future? There's no reason I would say no at the moment. However, if I were given the option between a favorite legacy carrier and Silver Airways for the same route at the same price, I'd probably opt for the legacy carrier. Overall, nothing from this flight with Silver Airways would prevent me from rebooking a similar flight in the future. From the time each turboprop spooled up to the final taxi and parking in Orlando, my flight was acceptably average. The staff on the ground were all professional and courteous, and the flight crew was welcoming as they safely brought us north from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando. Odds are, if you are still watching this video, you are someone I personally know or are genuinely interested in the content contained in this video. Before moving on to the next video, I wanted to let you know that there is more content waiting for you on my website. Head to flyingdoctor.com to find scientific and aviation-related articles that are much more in-depth than what is shown in this video. You will also find photos I have personally taken at various airports across the world that are free to download, and a list of multiple popular airline shops so you can support your own favorite carrier. I truly appreciate each and every new subscriber, and look forward to building an aviation-focused community with an insatiable curiosity for medicine. As always, thanks for watching. See ya.